Hello, everybody. This is Team 14 presentation. I have here with me Nick Jones and David Simmons, and I am Mohammed Ibrahim. In this presentation, we will go through three topics: Google Developer Account, Firebase, Espresso, UI testing. So first, we will be talking here about the Google Developer Account and what is a Google Developer Account. So Google Developer Account is essential to publish apps into the Google Play Store, and it is based on a Gmail account. Each Google Developer Account is associated with one Gmail account only. It's not a free. There's a cost $25 for one-time payment, and that will be good for unlimited apps. You can publish as many apps as you want. However, if you are publishing a paid app, there is a 30% revenue for paid apps charged to use the platform. Why use developer account? So distribute your Android apps through Google Play tutorials. Google Developer Account helps you learn how you can distribute your Android apps through Google Play tutorials. As an owner of a Google Play developer account, you would have access to exclusive lessons teaching you how to efficiently distribute your Android apps precisely from Google experts. Also get discovered on a Google Play search, so you can get your name on your application's Google Play listing. It gives you an increased sense of brand ownership and improve your visibility on the Google Play Store and help you get noticed. Third is putting a charge on your app download. Of course, you can make your app free, but if you choose to make your downloads to be chargeable, you can do this only by using your Google Developer Account. Fourth, which I think is a very important feature, is analyzing statistics, reports, and reviews of your app. So if you own a Google Play developer account, you will be able to retrieve detailed statistics, reports, and reviews for all your published app. Also, track app performance from your Android device, and this becomes very handy when especially when you have a paid app. So using your Google Play developer account, you can track your app performance from your Android smartphone. You can check the number of downloads and the amount that you have earned so far. And last, which is also important, is have access to Play Support Forum, which is available 24/7. So creating a Google Developer account is fairly simple and easy. First, of course, you need a Gmail account, and you go sign up to Google Developer account, upgrading basically your account to Google Developer account. And then you have to go through some agreement. You have to read the policy and rules and regulations. Once you sign on that agreement, you will be asked to pay the registration fee at that point. The registration fee, as we said, is about $25, and it will take about 48 hours. They said about 48 hours, sometimes take longer, for your account to be approved. Once your account approved, you on step 4, you will go and create your profile, complete your account details, and you will be good to go and start publishing your apps on the store. And now I wanted to show you a quick demo on my old Google Play account. This is the console. It's about 9 years old, but still have some apps in here. So what it does is actually, this is the main homepage where you can see all your apps that have been published there. From time to time, Google will send you some new updates. You will see it here in the inbox. If you go to the inbox, you will see some new rules and regulations, and sometimes it is specified to one certain app. You have to go and agree to it. Otherwise, your app might be removed from certain category, or my app will be maybe restricted from certain age, or maybe your app might be removed from Google. And that's actually what happened on some of these apps because I didn't update them in a very long time. So if we click on one of them, and just to show you, although it's removed, but you can still see all the features here. So this is, for example, it was removed because Maybe because I didn't finish this one here, which says complete the target audience and content section, I have to go and apply to, agree to the new terms and regulations that was updated certain time in the, last year or the year before or so. If you don't do this, as we said, your app might be removed. So this is one thing. If you go to the inbox, you will see some of the messages that was sent in regard to this app. So you can see here, for example, and that's another good example here, during the election time, Google changed some of their rules and regulations about the news. So you have to go and kind of agree and mark your app, whether it's a news app or not. Otherwise, it will be removed from the news category. So this is just another example here for you to see. The statistics is a very important tab actually here. You can see a lot of information here. It helps you, especially when you publish your app worldwide. You can see here some, this app was kind of like, most common countries where was downloaded. You can change this and see what Android version actually downloaded your app or using your app currently. And this is actually only good for, so this is the last 30 days. You can change it to like you want to see all time 365 days, or depend on what you want to see. Also, you can see what devices are using your app right now. You can see Huawei and Samsung Galaxy and others. If you also, you can see what device type. This is also important. So say, for example, you have a phone, tablet, smartwatch, and Android TV, or all these kind of apps that can be whatever you have your application for. So this is one thing. Also, an important feature here is the quality. This is very important for your app, especially after making updates or a new release on Android. Maybe, from time to time, new phones comes up. So this is always good to go and check. So you can check basically the crashes, and you can, if you remove the audience for now, we will only give you the crashes for the last 30 days. Like I said, you can change this to 1 year or so. Luckily, there are no crashes in the last 30 days, maybe, because the app was removed. But this is where you're going to see any crashes. Even if the app removed, they're still on people's devices, and you can still get data in your here. So this is one area. Here's another area here where you can see the release, like what release version. If you update your release, you can see what version is this. So this is only 1.1. If you have more than one, if you update your app. This is the ratings and the reviews for the app. Once you click on it, you will be able to see, you'll be able to reply to the reviews here made by people. Also, this section is very important for those who publish paid apps. You can go to the app pricing and change the price on the app. Of course, this app I publish for free, so I cannot see any features here. So this is pretty much it. And here's some policy and statements, and you can go back to the console and see other apps. You can see other important features here as well, set up and bundle. So with all that being said, we wanted to move next to David and go through the Firebase with you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Simmons, and I'm going to be talking about Google's Firebase. Firebase is a powerful platform for mobile and web applications. It includes functionalities for data storage, user authentication, and static hosting. Firebase was created in 2011 under the name Involve. It was primarily being used for its API for online chat. Google bought Involve in 2014. To set up data storage for your project, you first need to select storage from the navigation pane and then click Get Started. You will then want to review how to secure your cloud storage using the security roles. Here you can also set up roles to allow for public access. After you finish setting up your security roles, you will need to select a location for your default cloud storage. This will be known as your project's default Google Cloud Platform or GCP resource location. If for whatever reason you cannot select a location, it means that your project already has a default GCP resource location. After you select the location for your default cloud storage bucket, you are finished setting up the data storage. Moving on to Firebase's authentication capabilities. Firebase has a drop-in authentication solution. It's Firebase's recommended way to add a sign-in system to your app. The drop-in authentication solution handles UI flows for signing in users with email addresses, passwords, phone numbers, and popular federated identity providers. For example, Google Sign-in and Facebook Login. It also handles account recovery and account linking, which can be used in iOS, Android, and web applications. The email and password-based authentication can be implemented in iOS, Android, web, C++, and Unity. The federated identity provider integration works with Google, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, and even GitHub. The phone number authentication, custom authentication system integration, and anonymous authentication can be implemented in iOS, Android, web, C++, and Unity. To implement Firebase's authentication SDK, you need to first set up sign-in methods, email addresses and passwords, phone number sign-in, or any federated identity providers you want to support. To set up the federated identity providers, you will first need to enable them in the Firebase console and complete the configuration required by that identity provider, such as an OAuth redirect URL. The next step for setting up Firebase's authentication SDK is that you're going to need to implement UI flows for the sign-in methods. For example, this is telling users to enter their email and passwords. Finally, you will need to pass the user's credentials to the Firebase Authentication SDK. Moving on to Firebase's static hosting capabilities. Some of these are serving content over a secure connection, hosting static and dynamic content, delivering content, emulating and sharing changes before going live, and deploying new versions. Moving on to how you implement the static hosting. The first step to implement the static hosting is to install the Firebase CLI. This makes it easier to set up a new hosting project, running a local deployment server and deploying content. The next step is to set up a project directory. This is where you would add your static assets to the local project directory, then run Firebase init to connect the directory to the Firebase project. And an optional step is to view, test, and share any changes made before going live. The fourth step is to actually deploy your site using Firebase's deploy to upload the latest snapshot to the Firebase servers. The fifth and final step is to link to a Firebase web app. Linking to the Firebase web app will allow you to use Google Analytics to collect usage and behavior data for your app, as well as using Firebase's performance monitoring to gain additional insight into the performance of your app. And now I will pass it off to Nick, where he will talk about the Espresso UI testing.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick Jones, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Espresso UI testing framework that we've been using for our test automation throughout the development of our senior design project. So I'd like to start by going over just a brief overview of what Espresso exactly is and what we're using it for. So like I just said, Espresso is a framework for UI testing in Android applications. If you're familiar at all with JUnit, it's very similar to that. All you have to do to be able to use it is create a test class in the proper directory in your project, write up the test class and the test cases using the packages and classes provided by the framework, and then execute the test cases just by pressing the green play button that appears next to them in the IDE. The only main difference between this and JUnit is that these test cases at Espresso are much higher level and that they serve to simulate different kinds of user input within an app's UI page. For example, like pressing a button or inputting a certain string of text into a text bar or scrolling through a list of items or really anything else you can think of. And you can set up these test cases so that they only pass if a certain condition that should be produced by an action in the UI is met. Like for example, if tapping on a certain button takes the user to a different UI page like it should. Another important thing I'd like to note is that a comprehensive set of these Espresso test cases and test classes can, with just the single click of a button, confirm to a developer that their app's UI altogether is working exactly as it should. So it's very powerful. The next thing I'd like to show is just an example of a very simple Espresso test case and test class. So on the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see a screenshot of this test class, and I'll just run through some of the more important components of it so that you get an idea of how it works. To start, the run with annotation on line 1 just specifies that this test class can be executed using the Android JUnit runner. The large test annotation on line 2 pretty much indicates that this is a test class that can include multiple test cases. Lines 5 through 7 initialize the activity rule object, which specifies that these test cases should be run in the discussion UI class. Now this UI class contains a layout for a discussion forum homepage, which includes a list of posts to the discussion forum and a button that you can tap on to create a new post. Moving on, lines 9 through 12 initialize this UI class and set it up for the test cases, and lines 14 through 17 tear down or destruct this UI class once the test cases have completed their execution. Finally, lines 19 through 23 are the actual test case itself. Line 21 is the code for performing the clicking of the new post button in the discussion forum page. And then line 22 is the condition that checks to make sure that clicking on this new post button successfully navigates the user to the new post creation page. So with all of that being said, I'll now segue into an actual live demo of executing these test cases in Android Studio.
Okay, so here I am now in Android Studio, along with my Nexus 5X emulator here to the right. And what's currently open in this emulator is just a simple app that I created in order to showcase the execution of these Espresso test cases. This app contains this simple sign-in page along with an About Us page that can be reached by clicking on this About Us button right here. Right now it just says Hello World. And the only other logic besides this About Us button that exists in this app right now is just some error checking for the username field here. Usernames for this app should be valid email addresses. So if I were to input a username without this @ symbol, along with just any random password, and I click the sign in button, it'll give me an error telling me that it's of an invalid email format. So with that being said, and because those are the only two main pieces of logic and functionality within this app, those are the only things we have to really test in our Espresso test class over here in Android Studio. You'll see some very similar components to the picture that was in the slides, such as this run with annotation, the large test annotation, this activity rule object, which establishes that these test cases will be run on main activity, which was just that simple sign-in page that I showed you in the emulator. It's setting up that page, it's tearing it down once it's done, and it has these two test cases over here. The first test case, About Us button test, just checks to make sure that when you click on that About Us button, it navigates you to the About Us page, the one that had Hello World. And this second test case is a bit more complicated. It makes sure that if you were to input a string into the username text field that doesn't have an @ symbol, like this string of text right here, that it is successfully returning that error that says invalid email format. If I go ahead and execute these tests right now, they should pass once the app has completed building. And they do. And now that really raises the question, what happens if a test fails? And I'll show that to you right now. So if I go into the UI class itself and comment out the logic that throws that error message, if the @ symbol is not included, and run this invalid email error test again, it should fail because it's no longer showing that error message. And it did in fact fail, with this message pretty much saying that it never saw that error message saying invalid email format, along with a stack trace showing you exactly where it went wrong on line 50. And that's pretty much it for this demonstration and our presentation as a whole. So we appreciate you all listening very much. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you very much.